Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Bears Pod with Parker Hurley. This is your host, Parker Hurley. We're here at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday. We'll be here 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central every Tuesday from now through training camp. So tune in, hit like, subscribe, everything like that. We'll be back to Tuesdays and Thursdays when the Chicago Bears get to training camp, but we're in the middle of the offseason. We talked last Tuesday that we're going to shift from the draft talk to some more roster talk. The Bears are at OTAs today. There really wasn't much news or many takeaways to take away from that. So we're going to get straight into, I'm basically for the next few weeks going to talk about position by position as we have I am Skokes here, comment and bear down as always. Leave some comments, leave some likes, leave some anything you want to talk about. We'll definitely talk about what you guys want to talk about. But today, as we talk about what you guys want to talk about, the plan is to talk about the quarterback position, and that obviously leaves us talking heavily about Justin Fields today. Like I said, it'll be position by position for the next few weeks. We'll go through every single position and make sure we're going to hit on every single player, including the depth. So we're going to get right into it to leave some time for some of those depth guys, but this is one of those positions where there's really maybe if the 3 or 4 is going to be a training camp battle, but we know that Justin Fields is heading in as the starter, and we know that PJ Walker is going to head in as the backup. And then, like I said, the 3 and the 4 are competing. But to dig into Justin Fields a little bit deeper, and I think we talked about it on one of the other podcasts, is that I said I think the Chicago Bears did a pretty good job of this draft, I think we did a pretty good job of giving Justin Fields no excuses. There were they can walk away from this season, his 5th-year option. They have to pick it up, by March of next year. They're going to walk away from this season with a good feeling of what he's going to do, a good feeling of what they're going to get because of the pieces that they put around him and because of the draft and because of free agency, because when they traded down, they got Darnell Wright and DJ Moore, helps him in the passing game and as a pass protector. So, it's going to be, that's what we're going to look into. And Skoke says here's something he's noticed watching some recent clips. He feels like he's too weak on the short and the slant passes. Would really like to see him put more heat on his passes. And this is actually something we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And actually, I mean, might as well, because that is what Skokes is bringing up is those short to middle passes, those slant passes and things like that. He thinks Justin Fields can improve on that. I have an article. It's 3 stats where I think we really need to see Justin Fields improve. And one of the stats that I came up with was we need to see him in the really from 0 to 20 yards. He needs to, 1, be more prone to throw the football in that area. And 2, like he said, he needs to be more accurate and he needs to be better in that area. And one thing that I highlighted from that article is that Justin Fields is 4th in the NFL in deep ball percentage. So he's 4th in the NFL in passes that go 20 plus yards or more. And when we see Justin Fields, we think about it and we say, okay, one of his biggest strengths is his deep ball. And he can really, some of those big bombs to Darnell Mooney and even Dante Pettis and things like that. So you're saying, okay, now that they have DJ Moore, and we talked about when they signed DJ Moore, one of the biggest things with DJ Moore was Justin Fields is 4th in deep ball percentage, DJ Moore's top 5 in deep ball target rate from last season, and he had PJ Walker as his quarterback. So if Fields is his quarterback, they may just target him more deep anyways. So it's true that, this is a benefit. This isn't necessarily a huge flaw, but he's 4th in deep ball percentage, and then he's 6th in the rate of passes that go behind the line of scrimmage. So mainly screen passes, check downs, things like that. He's 6th in the NFL in that. And the way that I kind of compared it is he can hit the threes, he can hit the layups, but he has no mid-range game whatsoever. He can't hit anything in the mid-range. He's 35th in passes from 0 to 9 yards. And those are exactly what Skokes is talking about. Those short and quick slant passes. He's 35th in the NFL in that rate, and he's one of the least accurate in that area. He just doesn't have the confidence really in that area, and you can come back to, okay, how much of it is because of does he have a quick reliable target in that area? Cole Kmet is probably that best short to intermediate threat, and I think in a perfect world, Cole Kmet is a secondary type of target. So you're hoping, like I kind of said, maybe if DJ Moore becomes that deeper guy, I think the person that you really need in that area is probably Chase Claypool this upcoming season to catch some of those quicker over the middle passes, to move the chains, to use his big body and things like that. And like you said, on those short, quick slant passes. So and even with Robert Tonyan, you're adding him, and that can create more for whether it be Tonyan or or Cole Kmet, you're creating that ability where those 0 to 9 yards, now you have guys who maybe could catch some of those. So now you have, like I said, Justin Fields can't go into this season where he is 35th in that area and he's 30th in 10 to 20 yards. So even in, he pushes it a little bit further, he's definitely at his worst in that 0 to 9 yard range. For sure, he's at his worst. But from 10 to 20 yards, he still lacks that confidence. It's really for him, it's if he doesn't throw the ball, those quick screens or those checkdowns, and he doesn't throw the ball deep, he's probably running. And you can't, as much as the big plays from running are great, the big plays from the deep ball are great. If you're throwing those screens when they're being called, that's obviously a good thing. But if you don't have that overall game, and if you can't hit those passes in the middle of the field, and that, like I said, from 0 to 20 yards, then teams are just going to start creeping back and creeping back. Their safeties are going to play back and they're going to blitz him and they're going to force him to flood the pocket. And then they're going to have, the deep field is going to be taken away. And they also are going to be that last line of defense in terms of, defending him when he breaks free as a runner, because they're going to be deeper, so teams are, like he said, Skokes is saying he noticed it watching some film clips. I mean, not even to knock on Skokes, but the NFL coaches, if he sees it, the NFL coaches are going to see it because they're studying it, to the nth degree, so much more than he is. And if he's seeing it, they're seeing it, just as much as him. And the Lions defensive coordinator, the Vikings defensive coordinator, the Packers, they're just given a week in this offseason, and it's find ways to beat Justin Fields because we're going to play him twice a year next year, and it's going to be a big game. And they're going to poke those holes in his game, and they're going to say, okay, we're going to force him to beat us in that 0 to 10 yard range. And if he can't do that, then the Chicago Bears, whoever the skill players are around him, the Bears are not going to take that step forward, and they're going to walk into the offseason wondering what they're going to do with his fifth-year option. So any other comments, definitely leave them here. We're talking Justin Fields. That was my first of three things that I think we really need to see from Justin Fields to see improvement, and Skokes noted it as well. So if you have any other comments, or if there's anything you want to see Justin Fields improve on, we just so happened that was one of my three, was one that he commented on. So we'll see if we disagree or agree on some other things that you guys think he can improve on. The second thing that I mean, Justin Fields needs to absolutely improve on this is his sack rate. I think everybody knows that. It's a historic. Nobody takes as many sacks as Justin Fields, especially through his first NFL seasons. A lot of people are going to point to, and it's easy to point to, well, the offensive line has been horrible. They've been shuffling at basically every position, for his first two NFL seasons. It's been a different left tackle his first two NFL seasons. It's been like five guys at right tackle. It's been, it's been one center, but it's Sam Mustipher has been the center for both of his NFL seasons. So he has had no stability with his offensive line. But the thing is that while he rates as one of the highest players in the NFL in terms of pressure allowed by his offensive line, he's also one of the highest rate players of turning pressures into sacks. So it's still, the way you could look at it is, if he had this worse offensive line in the NFL, which may be true, and he was still good at avoiding sacks and was still, playing good football, it still wouldn't be historic, And if he was bad at taking sacks and he had a pretty good offensive line, it still wouldn't be historic. But the fact that he has a bad offensive line and he's bad at taking sacks, now we have somebody with a historic sack rate. And now that is where you could, like I said, the positive Justin Fields people are saying it's the offensive line's fault once he gets the offensive line, and they're saying that he's taking all these sacks because he has to play hero ball because he doesn't have that short, that 9 yard player that he can get the ball out quick to and move the chains and things like that. So he's saying, okay, if there's nobody behind the line of scrimmage I can throw to, I have to throw deep. And if the offensive line isn't helping me, then I have to make plays. And the cost of doing that is that he's going to take sacks. And there is the question of, is Justin Fields taking all these sacks? Is his high? It's not about just the pressure. It's the pressure to sack rate. When he's under pressure, he takes sacks more often than almost any other quarterback. I have the stats that in 2021, it was 23.8%, his pressure to sack rate. He was getting sacked 24% of the time that he was facing pressure. That was sixth worst in the NFL. In 2021, the five players that were worse were Tyler Huntley, Ben Roethlisberger, Zach Wilson, Joe Burrow, and Baker Mayfield. So you can point to Joe Burrow and say, yeah, that was great. But from his first to second season, he did improve in that rate. And that you look at the other guys and you say, well, Tyler Huntley's a backup. Ben Roethlisberger retired. Zach Wilson got benched, and Baker Mayfield, I guess, is technically a starter. So you say like the guys who it's still you could blame the offensive line, this, that, and the other. Those guys were taking sacks a lot when they were under pressure, and none of them are very good. And then in 2022, like I said, Joe Burrow from his rookie season, it improved. And even the offensive line didn't necessarily improve. It took until his third season for them to invest in the offensive line, last season. So Justin Fields' sack rate, pressure to sack rate, not just his sack rate, the amount of sacks he takes under pressure jumps up to 26.6%. And that was the only quarterbacks worse were Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson, and Baker Mayfield. And, like I keep saying, I can't believe Baker Mayfield's a starter. Wilson and Watson obviously had some awful situations, and Watson, coming off of new team, missed that year. Wilson, new team, all that things. Stafford ended up on the IR, missed the season. So, I mean, this isn't the company that Justin Fields wants to be in. And these are, you can say, oh, well, Stafford had a bad offensive line too. Yeah, and he was tough. He wasn't avoiding sacks. In 2021, he was avoiding sacks at a much better rate. In 2022, he wasn't avoiding the sacks, and now he's injured. And that's where Justin Fields really has to improve in this area. And it isn't just the offensive line, but you can like that's where like some of this, everyone's so black and white on this of, oh, Justin Fields sucks. He takes too many sacks. But I'm like, I'm saying Justin Fields needs to take less sacks, but it's also fair that because he has a better offensive line and skill players, it's fair to assume that maybe he will do that. Because one, he's going to be under less pressure, so the overall rate of sacks will go down. But I'm still talking about the pressure to sack rate. But when the pressure isn't coming immediately, your first reaction isn't, let me run 5 yards backwards, because, oh, I know pressure is going to come. Let me run backwards and be a playmaker immediately. And, I have to do something immediately. And that's going to lead to more sacks because he's immediately running for his life versus if he says, okay, now I trust my right tackle. Now I trust my left tackle in his second year. I can stand in the pocket. It is fair that even if he is under the same amount of pressure, just because he trusts, or even if he is under less pressure, by being under less pressure, he still will take less sacks under pressure than he typically would because he's by being afraid that you're going to get sacked before the snap, you're almost setting yourself up for failure. And that's almost where Justin Fields was. And like I said, with his pass catchers, he wasn't trusting getting the ball out quickly. And now he does say, okay, I'll have this, that, and the other as my, my quick target is here, or, I can get the ball out here. I can stand in the pocket for a brief 2 seconds because I trust my right tackle. And while I may face pressure, I will get the ball out, and I trust DJ Moore will catch the ball. And that's where I said they traded down from number 1 for Darnell Wright and DJ Moore. And it could be, that split second where he says, okay, I trust Darnell Wright, so I'm not going to back up and bail the pocket. And that split second where he says, I trust DJ Moore, so I'm going to throw the ball in that 10-yard window. Are the things that are those, everyone says, oh, Justin Fields needs to process faster. It could be those 2 split seconds of, okay, I have Wright, I trust him. Okay, I have DJ Moore, I trust him. Those could be the 2 split seconds that change, everything for Justin Fields, or not everything, but, we could see his sack rate go down dramatically, similarly to Joe Burrow in that last season. So, like I said, obviously you're not in good company when guys like Ben Roethlisberger, Zach Wilson, and last season it was Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, and then Baker Mayfield both seasons. You're not in good company no matter how good or bad your offensive line is. You can't take sacks at that rate and continue. So I have one more thing that I'm looking for Justin Fields to really improve on. If you have any comments, definitely leave them. And if you're listening after the show, not during the live show, leave comments in the YouTube comment section. I'll hit them on the first thing next episode. So definitely do that. But more about Justin Fields and where I need to see him improve. We talked about he needs to get better throwing the ball over the middle of the field, needs to quit being so reliant on either it's all or nothing for him, 3-pointers or layups. He needs to find some mid-range game, and then he needs to take fewer sacks when he's under pressure. It's not about the number overall of sacks he's taking, because that it is fair that the pressure is dictating that. But when he's under pressure, he's still in the top 5 or 6 in the NFL. Maybe let's just get him outside the top 10, and that'll just be good enough. So the third thing I'm looking for is He needs to get the ball out faster, and that's obviously, I really kind of comes down to a combination of the two things. Because if he gets the ball out faster, he's going to be hitting those windows in that 0 to 10 yard range, that 0 to 15 yard range, more consistently than when he's holding the ball and setting up for 20-yard shots. And when he's getting the ball out faster, the pressure to sack rate should come down, because even when he's facing pressure, he's getting the ball out so quick that the pressure comes and it doesn't affect him. And that's what Joe Burrow, the biggest difference he had from year one to year two, was he started getting the ball out a lot quicker. And now he's one of the fastest in the NFL at getting the ball out. Not, I mean, we're not expecting that from Justin Fields, but he was one of the worst in the NFL. And in 2021, it was 3.06 seconds was his time to throw, which isn't necessarily awful, but it was third worst in the NFL. And then last season, so 3.06 was third worst in the NFL in 2021. Last season, it was 3.45 seconds. So he's in there nearly a half of a second more on average than he was just last season. And that's where I come back to one. Yes, you can blame Justin Fields for that for sure. And Justin Fields really needs to get better at that if he wants the Chicago Bears to walk away from this season and pick up his fifth year option. He needs to get better at that too. This comes back to, like I said, it's almost easily explainable that he knew when the snap came that his first instinct was to run back, because I need to buy myself time because I'm not getting any help up front whatsoever. So of course his time to throw is going to be high, because his first instinct isn't even to look at his reads; it's to buy himself time running backwards. And like I said, things that are going to happen when his first instinct is to run backwards because he has to buy himself time because of the offensive line, the things that are going to happen are he's going to have, those free plays where he breaks big runs as a scrambler. He's going to have those deep throws where, like I said, he's fourth in deep throw rate, but he's going to take a ton of sacks, and his time to throw is going to be, extraordinarily high. He's at 3.45. The only other one is Deshaun Watson at 3.31. And like I said, Deshaun Watson is taking worse sacks. Deshaun Watson was worse than Justin Fields last season. He missed the whole season, was on a different team. Like, there's a context. I mean, Justin Fields had a new coaching staff, but you don't want to be with Deshaun Watson, in terms of where you were. And the thing with Jalen Hurts is a similar thing, that in 2021, he made the similar leap to Joe Burrow, and that in 2021, Jalen Hurts actually had a higher time to throw than Justin Fields. He was at 3.18 last season in 2021, and he got that down to it's 2.86 this season. So he went from 3.18 to 2.86 in one season. Jalen Hurts was able to do that, and he went from somebody who held the ball too long, who took too many sacks, to somebody who got the football out. And then, we obviously saw all the things that happened with Jalen Hurts. So really, when you look at it, and you look at even Lamar Jackson sits around like 3.1. So 3.45, you're holding the ball for way too long, and you're trying to make way too many things happen. And even somebody like Jalen Hurts, who's a playmaker, and even somebody like Lamar Jackson, you need to be a little bit closer into their range than where you currently are. So you would hope to see him go from 3.45 closer to 3.1, or, like I said, Jalen Hurts going from nearly 3.2 to nearly 2.9 over one season. That turned him into, how much better was Jalen Hurts from 2021 to 2022, and how much did it have to do with, getting the ball out faster, and how much did it have to do with, some of those things like the addition of AJ Brown. And that allowed him to, like I said, that split second of, okay, I trust the guy I'm going to get the ball out to in that quick split second. Let me just get the ball out even when the pressure's in my face. Let me get the ball out that split second. It makes it so much faster. And if similarly to Jalen Hurts, he sees AJ Brown or DJ Moore in that, if Justin Fields sees him in that light, then you could easily see it, making a lot of sense. And that's where I say, in every single one of these stats, you can point to and say, Justin Fields himself has to improve in all of these areas. You can also say, because the environment is better around him, you could make a case that he's going to get better in these areas. And I think the combination of, if Justin Fields gets better in these areas and the situation around him provides him to get better, that's where you see the Jalen Hurts. That's where you see the Josh Allen, and that's where you see it becomes an easy decision. So it can't just be one or the other. And that's where I come back to. It can't just be, oh, his offensive line was so bad, let's just forgive him for all the sacks. No, he needs to take less sacks, But it's also true that his offensive line was so bad, and if he takes less sacks and his offensive line gets better, then it could be a big shot forward, versus, like I said, because his O-line was so bad and because he was so bad at taking sacks, it was historic how bad of sacks he was taking. So, any other comments on Justin Fields here before we those are my three biggest things that I think if we see Justin Fields get better in all three of those areas, and like I said, because the surrounding talent suggests that those stats should improve on their own, and then if he actually himself gets better in all three of those areas, then I don't think there's going to be any debate that the Chicago Bears should pick up his fifth-year option, and then everybody's going to say that they're going to be like a 9-win team next season, basically, especially, in this division. So there is a chance that they could turn it around that quickly, but it doesn't just come down to, oh, well, they got a better tackle, they got a better receiver, now Justin will be fine. It's no, so we still need to see Justin Fields get a little better in those areas. So we'll talk about, for the next few minutes, we'll talk about the depth at quarterback and the fact that PJ Walker is going to step in number 2. And one, it makes sense because PJ Walker, like I said, he just played with DJ Moore last season. So at least there's some chemistry there. There's at least the idea of he can bring things that help with the transition of Moore to Justin Fields, just getting to know each other. What do they like? Walker can talk those things through, and Walker's a person that could, help them be there. It's an easier transition. And beyond that, compared to Trevor Siemian, one of the biggest issues that happened last season was that the Bears, when Justin Fields got hurt, they had to change their offense dramatically because Trevor Siemian couldn't run the same offense. And then what happened was, from 2 weeks of running the Siemian offense to then switching back to Justin Fields, the rest of the players start to get affected more than the quarterback gets affected by that. So it's so much easier with PJ Walker. You can run the same concepts and plays that you ran with Justin Fields. So it made a ton of sense that they moved on from Trevor Siemian, and 2 got somebody like PJ Walker who can run a similar offense for Justin Fields. And then he, like I said, he can be a bridge of communication for DJ Moore. So it made, all the sense in the world that they signed him. And he really is going to be uncontested for the number 2 quarterback. And that's where you really look at it. For the number 3 overall, one of the rules that passed was that nowadays, because of the Brock Purdy thing, you're allowed to carry a third quarterback on your active roster. He has to stay on your active roster, but then on game day, he won't cost you a roster spot. So for the Chicago Bears situation, it seems pretty clear to me that Nathan Peterman will beat out Tyson Bagent for the number 4. As much as fans hate to hear it, it's true. But the reality is, one, Tyson Bagent's from Shepherd. It's going to take him a while. And 2, they drafted him to be a project. They want to keep him on the practice squad. So they're going to be able to keep him on the practice squad. And this almost helps the Chicago Bears because they were debating the idea of, do we keep Nathan Peterman as a third quarterback on the practice squad, even though when Justin Fields got hurt last season, they signed Tim Boyle, and they almost would have felt better with Tim Boyle, coming in off the streets than Nathan Peterman, who was there all season. But so do they want to waste a roster spot on that, or do they want to keep him on the practice squad? But then you have 2 quarterbacks on the practice squad because Tyson Bagent is making the practice squad. And the thing with Tyson Bagent is that, one, a team would have to really like him in the preseason to give him serious money to sign him off of the practice squad onto their roster. Like I said, a project from Shepherd. 2, he signed with the Chicago Bears because he spent Senior Bowl week with Luke Getsy. So it's hard to see him going anywhere. The Chicago Bears could easily cut him this summer and he'll easily circle back to the practice squad. And the thing with Nathan Peterman is that, like I said, so instead of wasting a second roster spot, a second practice squad spot on 2 quarterbacks, they're going to call up Nathan Peterman to the 53-man roster because every single week they can make Peterman active and it's not going to cost them a roster spot. So in every week you can call up a different player from the practice squad. So they're going to use those practice squad call-ups to elevate. Typically it would probably be an extra offensive lineman. So they'll call up the extra offensive lineman, maybe Dieter Iceland, something along those lines, back a swing center / guard. So every, for as many times as I think there's like 3 or 4 times they can call up Iceland before they have to keep him. So there will be roster mechanics and things like that. But you call up Iceland on Thursday, he's on the practice squad. You call him up. He becomes active, and then Peterman doesn't cost you a roster spot on game day. You just have to get him onto the 53-man roster, which means cutting somebody like Dieter Iceland, but he could easily circle back to the practice squad, and then you don't have to waste that practice squad spot on Nathan Peterman. And then you say, but you're losing a 53-man roster spot. Yeah, but that 53-man, that person's going to come back every single week because you can do a practice squad call up. So that 53rd man, what are the odds that he's so valuable that he's not going to circle back to your practice squad versus Nathan Peterman is going to be there? And as much as fans want to hate Nathan Peterman, the reality is that the way I would view it is he's just the third quarterback's coach. And they obviously liked him last season because they brought him back. And I mean, the connection that I seem to makes a lot of sense to me is the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy. He's from the Pittsburgh area, first of all. And then second of all, he went to Pitt for his freshman year and then he transferred to Akron. But then he was local. He was coaching locally in the Pittsburgh area. And that's where Mike McCarthy, who's a Pittsburgh guy, he's from Pittsburgh, knew Luke Getsy because of his Pittsburgh connection. And that's how Mike McCarthy brought him to Green Bay. And that's how he met Aaron Rodgers. And that's how he, got all these jobs Luke Getsy did. So Luke Getsy's from Pittsburgh. Luke Getsy hires Andrew Janacko as his quarterbacks coach. Andrew Janacko happened to be a quarterback at Pittsburgh. I want to say, I don't think his senior year overlapped with Nathan Peterman, but he was like right before Nathan Peterman went to Pittsburgh. So the offensive coordinator is from the Pittsburgh area and started his college career at Pitt. The quarterback's coach is from Pitt, and the third string quarterback just so happens to be from Pittsburgh. And they like I said, I mean, the reason that you have that guy around, Nathan Peterman, is that they obviously love what he brings to the meeting rooms. And so those guys obviously have known each other since, before last season. It wasn't just a coincidence that a bunch of Pittsburgh guys got together in the quarterback's room and they signed Nathan Peterman. So I think that obviously they have a similar philosophy, Janacko and Luke Getsy, to Nathan Peterman. They obviously like what he did with Justin Fields from this last season. And one of the things with Justin Fields is, like I said, with the Trevor Siemian thing, they almost wanted Justin Fields to be like Trevor Siemian during the first 6 weeks of the season, or to be like Nathan Peterman the first 6 weeks of the season. And it makes sense that those were his second and third string quarterbacks because that's what they were forcing Justin Fields to do. And they were forcing him to do that quick game. They were forcing him to do those things. And he just couldn't vibe with that. That's not the style of player he was, plus the offensive line, plus the skill players and things of that nature. And you really saw it during the Washington game on Thursday Night Football. The Bears started to buy into it. And then they had, from that game till the Monday night, the following week, they had like a week and a half off. And the Patriots game, you saw their offense was like a completely different offense altogether. So I think the Bears, one, they realized that we can't have somebody like Trevor Siemian because he's not going to, he's just such a different quarterback than Justin Fields. And we can't run the Trevor Siemian, Nathan Peterman offense for Justin Fields. And that's why our backup quarterback is now PJ Walker. And that's why another one of those reasons why I think you could expect Justin Fields to get better next season. But you still need to see, that progression of, and one of the things I forgot to say was that Matt Eberflus said on first and second down, we want to see Justin Fields play that style of within the offense, that style of maybe it is a little Trevor Siemian-y, but it is when you have the pass protection and you have the receivers, you're able to make those quick completions and move the chains. And he said, but the thing that makes Justin Fields and not Trevor Siemian is on third down, when it's 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 11 and we really need it, Justin Fields, that's when it's, bombs away, run for a first down, make the big time play. If we can get the superstar on third down, and if we can get a game manager on first and second down, then that's where Matt Eberflus feels like he's going to have something with the Chicago Bears. So, and that's where I think it sets up obviously for, like I said, if Fields gets hurt, you almost would expect the Bears to sign a quarterback and keep Nathan Peterman as the third string quarterback, because that's the only thing that they view him as is another, like I said, a shoulder, a person who can bridge the gap from players to coaches. Peterman can talk to Justin Fields and can be in the players' rooms in the way that Andrew Janacko and Luke Getsy cannot, but Peterman vibes with Getsy and Janacko because they obviously have ties, from long ago. So that's why Peterman's going to stay. And like I said, Tyson Bagent is going to spend a year on the practice squad because he's from Shepherd and he's a project altogether who went undrafted, and he signed with the Bears because he knows Luke Getsy, so he's not going anywhere. So I think that's for the most part my breakdown of the quarterbacks here. We'll probably talk about them closer to training camp, but we're going to go running backs, receivers, tight ends, O line, all the way through. I'm going to break down the depth chart and hopefully give you, like I said, as much Nathan Peterman, Tyson Bagent talk I did kind of, 3 or 4 minutes here. I'm going to try and do that about, every single, depth player, free agent player, 90-man roster player. We're going to get into the nitty gritty here, similarly to this for every single position. So we'll be back Tuesday. We're not going to be here Thursday. Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We're going to be every Tuesday from now on forward, talking Chicago Bears running backs. So we'll mainly be talking about the committee, how that goes, see some depth names, things like that. So leave some comments on the YouTube if you want to see if anything you want me to hit on early in the next show, and we'll talk to you guys later.